Hi, I'm Edaqa mort-ora-y from Edaqa's room. Today I want to give you a complete walkthrough of the game Carnival where I explain all of the puzzles and the reason and the logic behind those puzzles. This won't be a typical walkthrough of how the player might see it, but I might just skip directly to the puzzles showing how they all work. When you start the game, you end up on this screen. So this is the first screen of the game where you have this envelope, and all you have to do is click on the envelope to see the first puzzle. The first puzzle is an explanation to the game. This is an introduction. You've been invited to the puzzle. On this screen, you can click the little head, which does nothing other than spin, but it has a visual clue. The other things you can modify are the stars. Every one of the stars can be turned on and off. In the text, you'll notice these stars with a clown face and these stars. This matches up with the top here. And this is your clue that this is what the order should be. So the middle one is hollow here with the clown in the middle. And there's 3 stars more on the bottom. And so we have an empty star, and an empty star. And that's the warm-up exercise, as it calls it. And that gives us entrance to the carnival. The first proper screen of the carnival is the ticket stand. If you click on the thing, he will say, Mr. Carnival will say, you have to show me a ticket, indicating you have to tie a ticket now. The tickets on this screen are not that ticket, but they are related. The thing that a lot of people notice first are the We Are Nope sign, because it's a little bit off. And this is where our first puzzle is. We Are Nope, if you understand that you could rearrange these letters to be We Are Open, which would be the more traditional sign. And you play with the arrows to get that done. The arrows are modifying the letters. We have like the OP on that side. So switch these ones, switch these, and we have open. The order you do it depends on how much you play with initially. The open side is an optional puzzle which gives you a nice little Easter egg, a fancy reward with no purpose but to be pretty. On this screen is also a horse to click. These horses build up clues. There's several of them scattered throughout the carnival, and each one gives you another clue in this piece of paper, which is used for a puzzle later in the game, and we'll get to that at the end. On this screen, you can also click him for some flavor text. As well as this wheel, there's also flavor text. Mostly it's all flavor text here. And the lost and found. He's going to ask you what you're looking for. At this point in the game, you cannot know what you're looking for, so it doesn't matter what you type. If you type a ticket, you will not get it. There is a puzzle on the screen too, and these are the tickets. This is one of the more complex puzzles of the game, and it could take a bit. The first 2 steps people get fairly quickly. The green ticket here, green is an important color. It has 2 broken up numbers on each side. If you were to fold this together, you would see that this is a 4, 8, 3, 7, 1. So you have 4, 8, 3, 7, 1 on the green ticket. On the red ticket, we have 2 numbers here, and it's called the plus ticket, and it has a big plus sign, which indicates you should add these numbers together. So we'll get 9, 0, 6, 6, 8 on the red ticket. So we have a green and a red ticket. The colors are another clue that green plus red will give us yellow, so they have to relate to this yellow ticket. It's not as simple as entering the numbers left and right. If you do, the game will tell you, you're not quite there. What the clue here is that in the background, we have these flags on this ticket, and we have this person's face. If you see that lines up with the scene somewhat here, we have flags in the face, and these flags have the colors red, green, red, green, green, red, green. So what this means is that on the left side here, lining up with these left tokens, there are 5 flags, there are 5 digits, green, red, red, green, red. And that lines up with the numbers we have from the tickets, so that on the left side, we have 4, 0, 6, 7, 8. And it'll say, yes, that is the left side. On the right side, we have red, green, green, red, green. So we take the 2 numbers again of those 2 things we added up, and that will give us the number 98361. And that solves both of them. And he gives us a little reward saying you have a keen eye because it is a difficult puzzle to get. And this will give the ticket token. Again, if you need clues for these puzzles, they are over in the menu here. Since I saw this one, it won't show up here. I'll show you that on another one. And that's all we can do in this screen now. So let's jump over to the next screen here where we have the hot dog guy who says he wants to give us a hot dog. His name is Mr. Delicious. It's written on there. That is relevant information. For the hints, You can see in the hint thing up here, there are hints in the game if you need them. As you solve them or as you figure out pieces of it, the hints will change to give you more information. There is flavor text throughout this screen that does nothing with that. We search for the horse. There's a horse clue on this screen in that bottom right. That was down here. The hot sauce can be picked up. This is used later. Super spicy hot. What would you trade? Would you trade pain for pleasure? This clue is actually relevant to how you use the hot sauce, but it's a relatively easy association. You can click on the hot dogs and get numbers, and those are relevant, but you can't figure out the order of those numbers right now. There is one hidden here, which we'll need as well. The lights can also be changed colors, so there must be some combination we want for them. The order of the lights can be determined by clicking on Mr. Delicious. If you click on his head, he says, "I like my striped awning. Alas, my lights no longer play along." So this thing here is the striped awning. It's red, white, red, white, red, white, and that's the pattern. He says, "Alas, my lights don't play along," giving the indication that, my lights should be the same order. So let's do red, white, red, white, red, white, red, white, red, white. And he's happy about that. And he gives us a hand puppet of a line, which we'll get back to using later. If you happen to go white, red, start with a different color, it will also work, so players don't get frustrated. There is a garbage can on the screen that has numbered bottles in this. There's nothing you can do with it yet. We need to find more garbage cans first. You'll notice he keeps putting the hot sauce back if it's missing. The food menu is a standalone puzzle that requires no other knowledge from the game and no items. It's only this text in the middle and the numbers which are relevant. It is a pattern puzzle. You have to recognize the pattern. It is not a simple cipher, though it is related to a cipher, because different patterns can result in the same number and they're compound patterns. The first one you can notice the three front strokes here are a 3. Potentially down here you notice there's also a 1 and here is a 2. And from here you can deduce further things. You can recognize there's a 7 and a 7 here, which both have this pattern. So we assume this is a 7. And we also see a second 7. So something like this must also be a second 7. As you work through this puzzle and determine the patterns through the logic, and there's a lot of them here, also like the backward slash and the forward slash create a new number, you will determine that forward slashes are 1. So these add up to a 3. The bottom line is a 5, and a backslash following the bottom line is a subtraction. So 5 minus 1 is 4. Here we have 5 minus 2, which is 3. Followed by a forward line, we have addition. So 5 plus 2 equals 7. And we have another one, 5 plus 1 equals 6. The higher numbers here, so we have a top line. This is still a minus 1, but how do we get to 9? Well, this is probably a 10 then, so 10 minus 1 is 9. 10 minus 3 is 7. There is no 10 plus 1 here. So that gives us all the information we need. So as we go down to this price here, we look at the numbers, we look at the pattern. There is a forward slash, a 1, followed by a bottom line and 3 backslashes, which is 5 minus 3 is 2. Then we have a forward line which starts a new number, and this will just be a 1. And then a top slash with a backslash that says 10 minus 1 is 9, which is 1219. These are prices, and they all have a dot in them. And because they're prices, they have cents in them. You put the dot in the middle, press enter, and you figure out the prices. And he's happy, and he gives you a ticket, which you need to get into the carnival. So let's go back a few scenes right now. We go back. We're going to give him the ticket later. We're going to jump right over here to the flower scene. Again, we notice a horse over here on the rocks. Click on that. We get a third clue for the horse puzzle. The boy on the left tells us, I'm looking to make a hot trade. The boys have names in the game, so the other children, that is not relevant. The only real name is Mr. Delicious, and we'll see that later. So hot trade, that's your clue. We have hot sauce, and this is would you trade pain for pleasure? This is spicy hot. That's your indication that this boy does want to make that hot trade. So we give him that, and he gives you in exchange a puppet, and we'll see what to do with that later. This tree is a puzzle that's standing on its own as well. I'll click on the boy later. The tree has flowers that can be spun. We don't know which order to spin them in, however. If you click on anywhere else in the tree, it says, what an orderly tree. Orderly is your key clue there that something has to be ordered. So the logical order is we're going to be counting something. If we look at the petals of the flowers, we notice they have different numbers of petals. Here's 6 on this one, 5 on this one, 8 on this one, 4 on this one, and 10 on this one. So we can make the logic that, well, let's just click those in order. 4, 5, 6, 8, 10. And that solves the accounting of the flowers because we click them in increasing order and we get a flower token, which we'll need later in the game. Now look at this boy. What does he say? Be careful. Mr. Delicious doesn't like people touching his buns. This is a double clue. Mr. Delicious was the hot dog guy. It's written on his apron. And the buns, you notice you can click and you have numbers. And this clue has numbers built in instead of letters. So 8130. 8130. That's the order we have to click the buns in. So we have to find the buns here. And again, this is Mr. Delicious, you know, because it's this. Also, because if you click on his name, he says Mr. Delicious. So 8130. And he's happy that we've solved his code. And he gives us a hot dog token. And that's what we can solve right now. Now we're going to move on. We want to enter the carnival. He gets upset if you try to go in. He says, you have to show me a ticket. So we grab the ticket and show him the ticket to the carnival. And he removes the no entry sign. And you can click on the enter sign to get into the carnival now. The well is the central scene that holds the game together. If you click directly on the well, you will see there are tokens on here, the ones you've collected so far. And there are missing tokens indicating what you have to collect further. This is the metal puzzle. The players are led to know that they have to get all of these tokens. Until they're filled out, there is nothing you can do on the screen. I mean, you can spin them, but it won't do anything for you. There are navigation stones. These are thematic. If you click on them, it says you'll lose your way because carnivals are big and confusing, and this is like your map. You can't get anywhere without the map. But there is one with a symbol on it, and I'll get back to the children after I go do that one. So here we click on this. We get to the pirate ship. There's a lot of thematic things in here, like the dragon, like the skull. And of course, there's another horse to find, the Bronco bit. So now we have 4 clues for that. The ticket items over here, this is just extra things. It's just for flavor. It has no value. Neither does dragon, nor the tree, nor does the spinning at the top. The interactive elements here are the lights at the bottom, which turn on and off. And there are 3 shields on the ship, which move it to different locations. These are what you use to solve the puzzle. If we move it to the top left, we'll notice there are 6 letters at the top, which spell the word pirate, but the letters are irrelevant. There's 6 of them. And the lights line up with the colors of the lights at the bottom. At the bottom, you'll notice you can't go back to black. So black cannot be selected. So black up here is basically a placeholder. So which means in the top left here, if we look at this, the second letter looks like it's yellow. So we map the 6 down here. And the last letter is gray. It's the 6th letter there. If we go to the middle, we notice the letters change. And so the first light is going to be red. And the 4th light is going to be yellow. And go up, move the ship back to the last area. We have the last 2 colors in the word pirate, which map the lights in the bottom, which say white and red. And we have solved the pirate puzzle problem and picked up a pirate token. There's also a garbage can on here. So this is our second garbage can. We don't have all the numbers yet. If we go back, you can see the token on the well. As you collect them, they show up on the well. That was the pirate token there. Now we have nowhere further to go, but we have these little children. The boy says hop, 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 which is a clue that maybe he wants something hoppy, like a bunny rabbit. So we put the bunny rabbit on. He's excited and he lets you go to the games. The other child says roar, grr. And so that's your clue to give her the lion puppet. There are only 2 puppets, so it's really easy to just try randomly as well. So we have 2 places to go. I will go to the games first. You notice they both open. There's horses over here. That'll have to do with the horse clues. But first we'll go to the games. And here's the balloon game. There is one more horse on the screen at the top of the screen, which gives us one more horse clue. This game is a complex game and involves many steps to the rules to figure out. It's very relevant what the children say. The first clue is that this girl says, my dance started with a yellow one. I should first explain that there are darts here, and you can click on the darts and you can pop them. This is the basic gate to see if you understand the puzzle. If you run out of darts, it won't let you click them. You click the bell and you get new darts back. So to understand, to go back to the girl, my dad always won by starting with a yellow one. This indicates that you have to pop a yellow balloon first. This helps a lot in narrowing down the potential options. The little boy says, the spinning balloons is an old carnival trick to divert your attention. Trust me, the position of the balloons doesn't matter. We'll ignore that second comment for a bit. What he's saying is that this is a kind of a diversion. The position doesn't matter. It's the colors that matter. Yellow is yellow. It doesn't matter which yellow. And so any of these yellows can click first. Red is red. So it doesn't matter what order. It's just spinning. It's trying to divert your attention. That's what he's indicating. The position of the balloons is irrelevant, only the color. Then he says one more thing. Follow the columns. Now, if you look around on the screen, there is columns in the fence, but that's kind of background. There are columns at the bottom. And if the player hasn't noticed it, these columns each have a flag in them. These flags map to the flag colors of the balloon. So there must be an association between the flags and the balloons. And she said start with a yellow one. So we have two potential yellows here or here, and there are columns here. If the user starts here, which is what we're hoping, they will see that they have to make an association. Well, what does it mean to start in yellow? Yellow here, and there's a couple arrows pointing to the right. There's also these three little steps here, where one of them is not really filled in, so there's two full steps. These two full steps line up with these two arrows, which indicate you move two to the right. A lot of people can solve this puzzle without the pause. A lot of people just solve it. They realize the two arrows and go over, so there's a bunch of variability in how people solve this puzzle. But what it means is we start at this yellow column, click a yellow one. There's two arrows pointing to the right, and he talked about columns, so we go 1, 2 columns, which is now an orange one. And now there's 3 arrows. We go 1, 2, 3, which is now a blue one. The blue one is now pointing to the left one, which go over here, which is red. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is a yellow one. And there's 6 arrows to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's a green one to pop. And that is the order we've gone through the 6 darts. You'll see we needed 6 darts, 6 balloons to pop, and we get the dart token. If the player happens to start in this yellow one, they will find themselves going off the edge of the board and having darts left over, which eliminates that yellow one as a possibility. So if you go back to the well, we can see that we have the dart token on the well now. So we head over to the horses now. The first thing we do is we have to go through the park. There is a lot in this park. There are 3 puzzles starting here, but we don't need to do them right now. Find the horse first, and that gives us the final clue. And we're going to skip over the rest of this and go right to the horse carousel. If you click on the tree, he says, I'm the tree of logic. You may not like me, but I love you. This is an indication that this is a deductive logic puzzle, so a classic logic puzzle. We have a bunch of clues that we have to assemble in the horses, and there is one more clue here. So these clues on this page are the clues you have in a logic puzzle. From this, you have to deduce something. That something is in this carousel. The player needs to figure out first how to interact with the carousel. The slides are not clickable. The horses just have flavor text on them. There's arrows at the bottom that click. This one does nothing at first, but if you click the next one, it moves the horse. Next one, this one goes up, which I then realize maybe this one goes down. So the angles of these horseshoes do kind of indicate what's happening, though you can figure out from trial and error as well. So this one slants the horse forward and backwards. And then we have the final one, which doesn't move the horse, but it moves that red dot, which is the selector. And the selector determines which horse these buttons at the bottom are modifying. And you can modify all of them. There's 4 positions. And so the horses have 3 positions, top, middle, bottom. And they have three orientations: facing down, facing forward, facing up. And that's the combination we have to solve. And that can be solved via the clues in the horse puzzle. And I'll just give a brief overview of this. I won't work through the entire logic of it, but here are the puzzles of it. The first thing to notice is that there's 4 horses, but there's 8 names in here. But the text of this says, what's up with these children and the horses? So you can realize that there are both names of children and horses in this listing here. If you work through, try to figure out the names of the horses first. The first clue is that Lincoln and Molly are horses, because it says very clearly here. The next one requires a bit of sort of guesswork on the assumption that you may not call a child Texas, so that might be the child's, that might be the horse name. And not make sure that you wouldn't call a child, so there is the name of the horse, leaving Aya and Georgli and Emma and Enzo as the names of the children. And this can help you figure out who's on which horse and then combining the clues where they are. Up front and riding high, up front's going to be in the lead, whereas in the lead is the horse in the lead. We're going in the order of the horses as though it was a race. So this is going to be position 1, 2, 3, 4, and up front here. So up front and riding high would mean, for example, that the horse in the front is up front and it's riding high. We can combine that with the clue further down. No horse dared to ride at or above the stargazing Texas. That means one horse was at the top, so it must be the one at the front. It also tells us that so all the other horses are lower than that, and it also says stargazing Texas, meaning that one at the front is called Texas, and it's stargazing, meaning that it's looking up towards the sky. And I'll work quickly through some of the other ones. So Lincoln and Molly had synchronized height, so there's 2 horses at the same height. These ones, if you figure it out. Emma preferred the horse behind Molly. This also says Emma has to be in the 3rd and 4th one, because we know the front horse was Aya on Texas, so that helps you work that one out. And Emma was also at the bottom, so one of the last 2 horses would be at the bottom, and they looked up. So the one at the bottom had to look up towards Enzo, who looked elsewhere, which is another clue. And Georgli was the only one who kept his eye on the ground, which says his eyes are pointing down to the ground, and no other horse is looking at the ground. So the elsewhere ends up meaning it has to be looking forward, because it's not looking up. As you work through these clues and work them all together, there's some redundancy in here, so it's not a super hard logic puzzle, but it can be tricky. You will find out that in the back, we have Georgli, who is in the middle height, looking down. And he's the only horse looking down, so no other horse can look down. And he is synchronized. There are 2 horses synchronized height, which is the one with Enzo. And this one is looking elsewhere, and since that means this one has to look up. So Enzo is riding on Molly, and if we go back, this one has to be at the bottom, and the one at the bottom is looking up. And that's the solution for the puzzle of lining up the horses, which we get a horse token for. So again, the back one is Georg riding on Lincoln looking down. The next one is Emma riding a Nutmeg looking up. And in second is Enzo on Molly looking straight forward or looking elsewhere. And in front, we have Aya and Texas, the stargazing Texas, right at the top, up front and riding high. And that is that puzzle. That gives us all the tokens we need for the well puzzle to go back to the well. Now we see we have all the tokens. And we have to figure out the order of these tokens. And the only thing we can modify is actually the orientation. And we have to figure out, well, what orientation do we need? From the top screen here, you could deduce it on your own, but there is a clue down at the bottom. In the rock carving here, we have lines, and we also have 6 buttons oriented the exact same way as the tokens at the top, as well as the arrow here, which is a visual clue that those 2 things are combined with each other. They do relate. Of interest, though, for us right now are these markings in the stone. We have 2 lines, check mark, 2 lines, 1 line, check mark, and we have some X's and check marks. Check marks mean this is good. X's mean this is bad. So 2 to 2 is good, 1 to 1 is good, 1 to 2 is bad, 3 to 3 is good, 3 to 2 is bad. These are the lines on the tokens, and they're showing the tokens are close to each other. So what that means is we have, take this one, start at the top left, we have 1 to 2 is bad, 1 to 1 is good, the same number of lines. And from here, you can work your way right. I happen to get 2 lucky here with this one. Let's rotate this one because we have 3 lines and 3 lines. So now this one has to be 2. and this one has to be 3. Once we get lined up, we get one of the lasers. And you notice one of the lights lined up. This is the hint that there are 2 more lights to line up because we chose one at random here, this one here. There's also 3 and 2. So our indication is, well, we need those other ones. So let's go to the 2 and get the 2 lined up. Just get them all lined up at the same place, and then you get another laser there. So now we have one more, and you have to remember what you did. Some players will end up doing the same one twice, so it's good to just double check that. Did they do all 3 of them? That's why I start in the top left to do 1, 2, 3. Now, once you chose the base token, there is no way to really get the other ones wrong. There's no puzzle in that. All you have to do is order them. There's no trickery in that at that point. Now I have the 3 lasers, and I see all 3 of them, and there's an arrow going through it. This is an extra visual indicator that there is an order here, because arrows imply orders. You don't have to remember which one was 1, 2, and 3, because there's an animation here pointing to where things are going. Now that we have a direction, you can assume these are bouncing about. If you go down to the bottom again, notice the 6 locations. There are 6 buttons here. So you can click these buttons. So the implication is that with the arrow, that you have to click these in a particular order. There's only 2 with 1 laser going out, so if you don't see the animation, there's 2 potential starting points. You could start at the ticket or the skull because there's no reflected laser, but the animation does show a direction of the laser, which indicates you start at the skull and you go up to the token, to the dart. Now you could go up to the ticket or to the horse. Most people make the association that it's not going to be simple as skull, dart, ticket. You try that, nothing will happen, but very few people try this, which means it's the other path out. So it's skull, dart, horse, hot dog, flower, dart again, then back to the ticket, because that's the last path. And so that's the order you tick them on. That's bottom left, right, top left, bottom right, top right. If we follow the same order, bottom left, right, top left, bottom right, top right. It solves that puzzle. And we have the stone that comes up because we've solved the secret carnival puzzle. And now we can go to the final screen. This is the final screen. This is quasi the secret society that they've been looking for. There's not a lot happening in here, but it's kind of like the screen before the end. And we'll notice we have an egg on a shelf. Most people will have this egg. Most people have seen the open sign, and this is to give a visual indicator that there's other things that might be up here. If you click on them, it will give you the clues, but I will get back to that in a second. The only other thing to click is the endgame text, which explains what you've done. You've unraveled the secret society, and it mentions something about the eggs. Then you can go back and you have 2 options. At this point, the player can finish the game if they want. It's an option. They will leave the game, they cannot come back. Or they can go to the well to look for the bonus puzzles. And so the bonus puzzles are indicated by the missing eggs. The first one is called, it starts with a sad boy. There was a sad boy in the park. We'll go back there. Then, what's with the water bottles in the trash? I said we'd come back to that one, and we'll do that. That's the other one. And I like to sit beneath the lights and enjoy the park. So all 3 of these basically start in the park, as we'll see the water bottles too. So let's go to the well and go to the park. The isolated one here is the bench. I like to sit on the bench. So look at the bench, and there's something on the bench. There's just little symbols here, and there's notches in the wood or knots in the wood. These are not arrows, and these are not graphic anomalies. These are actually a rotated position of the tops of the 6 lights, which make the association between the light and those notches in the bench. So this is the leftmost one, this is the rightmost one. We have this ordering. Now, if you read this bench kind of like a musical score, you'll see, well, it's light 1, light 5, light 4, 2, 6, 5, and 1. And if we follow that on the lights, we go with that. We go with that order. The first one, the 5th one, the 4th one, the 2nd one, the 6th one, the 5th one, and the 1st one. And we solve the lightning bench and pick up another shiny Easter egg, which it says you played with the lights and this useless but pretty egg magically appeared. In the inventory, all the things you can't use end up in no longer useful, so the player will know they don't do anything with this thing. Also, all the tokens and stuff are here now because we basically finished the game. We'll get back. Okay, we'll do the garbage can now. Go back to this sad boy because he's the hardest puzzle. The garbage can, now we know we have bottles numbered 1 through 7 in the garbage, and it's really just that straightforward. Don't overthink this puzzle. You simply click on the 1 and then go to the next one and click through up to 7. If you have multiple players, different players can be different garbage cans, and they can synchronize the order they press it in. So I'll click 1, and I'll just do this one manually now. Just have to remember where the garbage cans are. Over by the lights is 2. Then we go out to the hot dog stand to find both 3 and 4. Then head back to the park to hit 5. Then back to the hot dog stand to hit 6. Then we go back to the pirates to click 7. And that's solved Love in the Trash, which gives us another shiny Easter egg, which, as it says, is surprisingly shiny for being found in a trash bin. That's one more Easter egg, and now we have one more Easter egg left to solve, and that's the sad boy. If you click on the sad boy, he's sad. I've lost my puzzle box. Now that's a clue. That's the only clue you get. I've lost my puzzle box, and you have to think back there. Okay, he's a puzzle box, and he's lost it. What do we know where you can find things that are lost? At the ticket stand, there is a lost and found. And now when we know what we're looking for is a puzzle box. And he's happy, and he gives us a puzzle box. There is a puzzle here, but let's go back to the sad boy first. If you click on the sad boy, hey, you found the puzzle box. And you will try to give the puzzle box to him. He says, cool, you found it. Would you mind helping me open it? So now that's our last puzzle. So open the puzzle box. The puzzle box is also sort of a standalone puzzle, and it has controls on it. They all do various things with these dots. If you notice there's a pattern here, these ones on the left change the orientation of it, as though this is a wheel rotating. This rotates it clockwise, this counterclockwise. These ones over here do the same thing, but it's hard to see with the 2 dots like that, but they rotate clockwise and counterclockwise. The top button flips the top and bottom ones on each side. You can see the colors flip on both sides. And the bottom one flips the position of these 2 points here. That leaves one button, the SOS button, which resets it to its start state. There's no need to press this button. The puzzle's solvable from any position, I believe, but the reset's just there in case you want to help somebody with a specific order through the puzzle. And it's also clearly marked, so if you click it, you're not frustrated wondering what's happening here. So how do we know where the colors have to go? Our clue is at the top here, left, right, and blue, red. So on the left side, we have blue, and on the right side, we have red. So we have to separate the colors. Some players happen upon this on their own, knowing the color separation, but knowing which color goes in which is the important one. So we're going to rotate these first, swap the colors. Now we have to get this blue one out, so we can get that one at the top. And you swap the colors. I could solve it quickly, but I want to show one of the common problems. First, we have the 2 colors here, and it's like, well, this is not quite working. So what do we have to do? We have to make it hollow in the middle. You might just instinctively think that's the correct thing because it makes a better pattern, but you can also see in the description there is a little hollow donut-like circle in the middle, which gives a clue to that. Though I think most people miss that and figure it out anyways. But now if you click the top and bottom, you notice it's doing one side, but there's 2 things swapping here. So it can be somewhat frustrating to get this figured out. Because what you may end up with is you have something like this, and then you have this where it's swapping back and forth. And this is a typical case. When you have this, you get one side, rotate it, swap the other side in, rotate the other one back, and swap out. And you've solved the puzzle box. And you pick out the magnificent egg with the bird on it, because this was the hardest one to solve, the most levels association, most walking around, and the puzzle box. And this is your reward, the beautiful egg, for solving the final Easter egg puzzle. And if you click back in the well, you can now see all the shiny eggs at the top that you have completed all of the puzzles, and you are now done the game, and you can finish the game to exit. And that is a walkthrough of all the game with an explanation of the puzzles. If you have any questions, just ask and I'll add an explanation for them as well, or solve any problems you have. Thank you very much. Enjoy the carnival.